Your phone has never once let you navigate alone. Think about the last time you drove somewhere new. You opened an app. You followed a blue dot. You did not look at the road signs. You did not look at the sun. You did not look at anything except the screen telling you where to turn. Now imagine that screen disappears. No GPS. No map. No road signs. No landmarks you recognize. Just you standing in the middle of a vast featureless landscape with nothing in every direction and absolutely no idea where you are. By every modern standard you are completely and utterly lost. Now here is what should disturb you. 100,000 years ago your ancestors stood in that exact same landscape. The same emptiness. The same horizon. The same nothing in every direction. Except they were not lost. They knew exactly where they were going. And what they used to navigate was not instinct. It was not luck. It was not some primitive animal sense that we have since evolved beyond. It was a cognitive map so complex and so precise that modern neuroscientists are only just beginning to understand how it worked. And we threw it away for a blue dot on a screen. Let us go back. We are talking about a time when the entire human population of the Earth was smaller than the population of a single modern city. Small groups of between 20 and 50 people moving constantly across vast and completely unmapped terrain. No roads. No trails. No markers of any kind. Just land. And these people did not wander. That is the biggest mistake modern people make when they think about ancient humans. They picture them stumbling around confused, getting lucky, surviving by accident. That is completely wrong. Ancient humans were not wandering. They were navigating. There is a difference so profound between those two words that scientists have given it its own name. They call it wayfinding. And wayfinding is not about knowing where you are. It is about reading the world so deeply and so completely that the world itself tells you where to go. Your ancestors did not need a map because they had become the map. Here is how they actually did it. The first thing ancient humans mastered was what scientists call sensory environment reading. And this was not about sharp eyes or good ears the way most people imagine it. It was about understanding a language. The language of the world itself. Wind is one of the most reliable navigational tools on the planet, and it has been blowing in predictable seasonal patterns for millions of years. Ancient humans who lived in a region learned its wind patterns the way you learned your mother tongue. Not by studying. Not by memorizing. By being so completely immersed in the environment that the information became automatic. They felt the wind and they knew which direction they were facing. Water was another language. Rivers do not run randomly. They follow the landscape downward. They tell you where the valleys are and where the hills are and which direction the terrain is falling. An ancient human following a river system was reading a map that was drawn into the earth itself by millions of years of gravity. Even the ground beneath their feet was information. Subtle shifts in soil composition. The way certain grasses grew only in low-lying areas near water. The direction moss grew on rocks. The angle of shadows at different times of day. Everything was data. And they read all of it simultaneously without thinking about it the way you read words on a page without thinking about the individual letters. But sensory reading alone could not navigate them across the open ocean. Could not take them across featureless desert. Could not carry them from one continent to another. For those journeys they looked up. The night sky was not beautiful to ancient humans. It was functional. Every constellation rose and set at a predictable angle determined by the season. Every star tracked a reliable path across the sky night after night across thousands of years. The ancient humans who made long journeys memorized the sky the way a modern pilot memorizes instrument panels. They knew which stars rose in the east. They knew which stars pointed north. They knew that certain constellations appeared only in certain seasons, which told them not just where they were but when they were in the year. The sky was their GPS. It just required no signal and never went down. Archaeological evidence from ancient Polynesian navigators shows that these people crossed thousands of miles of open Pacific Ocean using nothing but star position, wave patterns, wind direction, and the flight paths of birds. No instruments. No compasses. No charts. They arrived exactly where they intended to go every single time. Scientists studying these navigation methods describe a state they call expanded awareness. A complete merger between the navigator and the environment. Not thinking about the world. Becoming part of it. But the most extraordinary navigational tool ancient humans ever developed was not physical at all. It was a story. Indigenous Australian cultures developed something called songlines. And songlines are perhaps the most remarkable memory system ever created by the human mind. Here is how they worked. An ancient person needed to navigate from one end of a vast continent to the other. Hundreds of miles of desert and forest and mountain with no markers of any kind. So they did not memorize a map. They memorized a song. Every landmark along the route was embedded into a song as a character or an event. A particular rock formation became a moment in a story. A river bend became a character speaking. A hill became a turning point in the narrative. And as the traveler walked and sang the song, the landscape matched the story. The rock appeared exactly when the song said it would. The river arrived exactly at the moment the character in the song reached water. The hill rose exactly when the narrative climbed. The entire continent was a library. And the songs were the books. Scientists who have studied songlines describe them as a form of memory so efficient and so precise that people who had never walked a particular route could navigate it perfectly simply by knowing its song. They did not need to have been there before. They just needed to know the story. Now here is the part that should make you genuinely uncomfortable. We did not evolve beyond this. We abandoned it. The human brain today has the exact same navigational capacity as the brain of an ancient human who crossed an entire continent on foot using nothing but wind and stars and song. The hardware is identical. The capacity is still there. What changed is that we stopped using it. Neuroscientist Eleanor Maguire at University College London spent years studying the brains of London taxi drivers, people who had to memorize the layout of thousands of streets before GPS existed. What she found was extraordinary. The hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for spatial navigation and memory, was measurably larger in taxi drivers than in the general population. And the longer they had been navigating, the larger it grew. The brain physically expanded to meet the demand. And here is the terrifying flip side of that discovery. When GPS became widespread and taxi drivers stopped navigating from memory, those same hippocampal regions began to shrink back. The capacity does not disappear. But it goes to sleep. Every time you open a navigation app instead of reading the world around you, a part of your brain that your ancestors built over hundreds of thousands of years is sitting dormant waiting to be used. Your ancestors crossed continents without a single piece of technology that required electricity. They read the wind. They followed the water. They mapped the stars. They sang the landscape into memory and walked across it without ever getting lost. That is not a primitive skill. That is one of the most sophisticated cognitive achievements in the history of the human species. And somewhere deep in your brain right now, in a region you have probably never consciously used, all of that capacity is still there. Waiting. The next time you feel that strange sensation of knowing where you are even in a place you have never been before, that is not coincidence. That is not luck. That is 100,000 years of your ancestors reading the world so deeply that it became part of who you are. The map was never outside of you. It was always in you. You just forgot how to read it.